Alright, aviators, hello skygazers, welcome back to Up and Away 2.0, brought to you by all of us here at Project Aviate. This is lesson 12 in the Up and Away VFR flying series, where we're going to be talking about just applying stuff that we learned last week. So last week, just as a quick recap, we learned about airspace classes, airport classes, how we designate them based on the fact that airplanes have different sizes and different uses, and therefore they go at different speeds, and so managing air traffic becomes difficult. And then we talked about how we can use those airspace classes to set boundaries, altitude boundaries, so that different kinds of planes can cross under each other, above each other, and everything is organized. And then finally we talked about navigational aids, such as VORs, which are the giant radio beacons on the ground, or GPS coordinates, which are often called fixes, that are just, as I said, GPS coordinates that you can enter in a GPS should your plane have one. The plane that you're looking at right now in the slide title here is a Cessna 172, but it's a different version of it. So we normally fly the 6-pack one. It's got analog gauges, steam gauges, whereas here, this is what's called the G1000 version. G1000 is just the name of the displays. It's kind of like if you have iPad or Surface, Windows, Microsoft Surface. This is the Garmin G1000, those fancy displays. And it's a more modern version. And let me just show you what we did last week. So this is what we went over last week. Talked about how airports have different classes, airspace classes, and how we can allow planes to fly under each other like this. You can see what I've got in blue here. We got a plane going under this plane because this plane is coming to land at an angle, and we can make use of that. If we were to make this height one, let's say 1,500 feet, then we can set another boundary closer to the airport that looks like this. So you could make this extra boundary here go from 1,500 to 3,000. And you can denote it like that. So yeah, this is where we left off last week, and now we're ready to apply this into a full flight. And go ahead and start up X-Plane Mobile at Seattle Tacoma International Airport. We're going to be planning a flight from Seattle to the Renton Municipal Airport. And can I have one of you guys type in the airport code in the chat, the ICAO code?
For which airport again?
Seattle. Start at Seattle.
KC.
Have we covered what a VFR section? Yeah, we also talked about how these the boundaries that I just showed you. We talked about how these little boundaries here are shown on a real aviation VFR sectional. In fact, let me see if I can pull one up right now. Let me pull one up. So kind of look like this. Remember the Bay Area? And it's the same principle as you see these boundaries we've drawn here. Now, if we go ahead and look at a real VFR sectional, it's kind of similar. It's a lot more intense, but don't worry about it, I guess. Now, since we're in the Seattle area, let's go ahead and take a look at the Seattle VFR sectional that we've got here. So if we're starting here at the Seattle Tacoma International Airport, you can see there's several boundaries here. You got a blue boundary here. This represents Class Bravo airspaces. Remember, they have different classes. And the line just sort of goes out, and you can sort of see the altitude restrictions. Like over in this region, you have 5,000 feet to 10,000 feet. So this airspace region is between 5,000 feet and 10,000 feet. This airspace region is between 6,000 and 10,000, and it's just indicated as such. This one right here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
My bad. Your cursor was on the 5,000.
Oh, whoops. And over here we have 1,800 to 10,000. So as you can see, the airspace restrictions get at a lower and lower altitude as you get closer to the airport. And why does that make sense? Remember, because when planes land, they're landing on a slope. Look at the green lines. They're landing on a slope. So obviously the airspace restrictions get closer to the ground as you get closer to an airport. That makes sense? We're going to actually sort of use this VFR sectional to plan our flights, but I think what would be even easier is using X-Plane Mobile's native flight planner feature, which we're going to talk about, actually. It's a lot easier to look at than this maze of lines and numbers, so that'll be nice. Right. But before we dive deep into that, let's go ahead and talk about sort of what goes into flight planning. You know all the rules now, you know how air traffic is organized based on different plane sizes, but how do we actually go about flight planning? How do we use the resources and methods that we learned last week to plan a full flight? And I'll have you, Raj, go over these fundamental basics.
Cool. So, hello everyone. We're gonna go over a VFR flight plan real quick. So, VFR stands for Visual Flight Rules. Pretty much in good weather, you can see outside. You can use your eyes as reference to look out and navigate. Can't fly through clouds, etc. This is how you plan a flight through VFR. So you want to pick routes over roads or flat land so that you can kind of see where you're going, and then you want to avoid flying over mountains while you do that, because it's a little difficult flying over mountains, and it can be dangerous flying low over mountains during VFR. So you want to really look out for landmarks on your VFR sectional chart, and then pair them up to what you see outside and use that as a reference for where you are. So, for example, rivers, buildings, cities, big or small, certain areas of the cities, big buildings like towers, sometimes wind farms, radio antennas, any other landmark you might see on a VFR sectional. They really help give you situational awareness, and they help confirm your location when you're flying. So you can see, oh, there's a lake here on the map, and then if I look outside my window, it's the same lake, same shape, so now I know that on the map I'm over here next to this lake. And then like that you can navigate from point to point. So while you do this, you also want to use multiple navigational systems just to help keep you in check and reduce any chances of errors. So when I say other navigational systems, what I'm talking about is GPS systems and VOR beacons. So GPS, you probably know they use imaginary dots on the map called waypoints, and you can put those into your system or your iPad if you're flying using one of those. And then you can use the onboard instruments to tune into VORs that you see on the sectional chart, and then use those to reference yourself in navigation as well. But yeah, so if you just keep these basics in mind, you'll be able to dive into greater detail soon and find out exactly how to plan a VFR journey across wherever you want. But yeah, that's about it.
All right, thank you so much, Yuvraj. So, as he was talking about landmarks, mountains, lakes, roads, stuff like that, finding waypoints on a VFR sectional or just any aviation flight planner, there's many apps for it. Finding waypoints sort of along near those landmarks to at least map it out before you start flying, because, well, your iPad can't really put a lake on your route. It needs a specific waypoint. So that's always good for flight planning purposes. Now, if we look in the sim here, loaded up at Seattle, runway 16 left, and I will show you how to get a plan going. Our goal today is to fly over to Renton Municipal Airport, which is actually behind us. So this will be kind of fun, getting to Renton Municipal. And usually, planes in the Seattle area take off facing south, which we're facing right now. We're on runway 16 left, facing south. And we want to go ahead and plan a flight. So let's actually let me show you what you're going to see in X-Plane Mobile. Calvin's your iPad ready?
Yeah, I'm streaming it already.
Okay, cool. Let me go ahead and switch to that. I hope that didn't mess up anything. There we go. Cool. So, we're over at Seattle, and let me go ahead and reduce these borders. Wow. All right. So we're going to start on runway 16 left, and it seems like Calvin has already done that. Now, if you go ahead and click the fixes checkbox, click the fixes checkbox. Great. So what you can see now is there's a bunch of GPS coordinates on this map in white text with little white triangles on top of it. This is how fixes are denoted, and they are always 5 letters long. If you go ahead and zoom into one, you can see their very interesting names. They're usually random, although many airports have, words, kind of like what we talked about in our last stream. Many airports will have words that represent something for their waypoint. Especially if you look at Washington National Airport, Washington, D.C., the Ronald Reagan Airport, one of the approaches into the airport has waypoints that has to do with American patriotism and freedom and stuff like that. So you get stuff like that. Oh, I just realized Here you go. All right, so let me go ahead and close this for a second. So we want to... Wrong thing. Whoops. There we go. So we're at Seattle right now, and we want to head over to Renton Municipal. And if I can see it correctly, that's Renton Municipal back there. And okay, great. So couple things we'll notice along the way. Apologies in advance, by the way. X-Plane Mobile doesn't seem to show like all these buildings and trees where they're supposed to be. But don't worry, we'll have a way around that, because at least it shows you bodies of water and hills and stuff like that. That's all we'll be covering today. So no roads, because X-Plane Mobile doesn't seem to be showing you proper road placement or building placement, things like that. But don't worry, we'll manage our way around it. So this is Renton Municipal back here, as you can see. And wow, this music is pretty loud. All right. So this is Renton Municipal back here, and what you can notice right away is we have a city back here. So this might be of a good visual reference to have. This is actually the greater Seattle area, the Seattle downtown area. I believe this is modeled in X-Plane Mobile. We'll be able to see it. And let's take a look what else is here. Running alongside Renton Municipal, we can see a little lake here, right? So definitely want to keep this lake in mind. Perhaps we'll have to land on the north side of the airport, because we need to take off and land in the same direction, facing south. So we're going to be landing on runway, let's take a look here, runway 16 at Renton Municipal, facing south. So this is just us getting an idea of the geography around Renton Municipal and how we might want to get there. So as we can see, Seattle Airport is surrounded by mostly flat land, so there's not a whole lot that'll help us out here, especially until we sort of make our turn towards back here and find Renton Municipal. And now let's go ahead and take a look what this looks like on X-Plane Mobile. So, okay, great. So we're going to activate free version, by the way, because we're only using free version. Let's switch this thingy. Great. We're over here. We're going to start at Seattle. Kilo Sierra Echo Alpha 16 left, as you can see on the top. Let me go ahead and uncrop this a little bit just so you can see what's happening. There we go. Great. And I have the fixes selected. So as I was talking about, Renton Municipal has sort of a body of water going right next to it, which we can see a little bit here. Let's look closely. There's a lot of waypoints that sort of start... I'm sorry, Renton Municipal's over here. The body of water does not seem to show up over here, though. But we do know that there is a hill. There is a hill right by Renton Municipal. If we look back there, it's actually... this is a hill right here. You can see the sort of downsloping happen right here. This is actually a hill, so this will be good to spot when we're trying to come in and land at Renton Municipal. So if we want to plan a route, let's go ahead and start looking for some waypoints. Okay, the first thing I see is the Seattle VOR. Oh, you don't see it because I'm not even showing it to you. There you go. The first thing I see is the Seattle VOR. So if we're going to start here at Seattle, runway 16 left, let's go ahead and pick the Seattle VOR just so we can take off and aim for something. So this VOR, let's click add to route, and just like that, it adds to the route. Okay, great. Now, we need to be able to make the turn. We need to be able to make a turn towards Renton, which is north of us. So what's a good waypoint that takes us in that direction? We got two options here. We have Duan and O'Keys, whatever. We can pick one. Let's go ahead and pick Duan just because it's slightly closer horizontally or laterally to the airport. Click add to route. Okay. Now, I've actually been pointing to the wrong airport this whole time. Renton Airport's over here. I'm so sorry. Renton Airport is up here. This is the hill right here. We're going to Renton, which is Kilo Romeo November Tango, and this is the airport over here. And it is behind a hill, so we'll be able to see it. The runway 16, there's a lake right behind it, which we can also see if we take a look at the X-Plane Mobile. We can see the same body of water right behind Renton Municipal. So Renton is over here, right? This is where our destination is, and we can see the body of water behind it. Now, there aren't many good waypoints back here. So just as a reference for this river, we can go ahead and pick, let's see, Tango Oscar Yankee Oscar Lima. It's a little hard to see. It's being covered by this Renton NDB that you see. That is another type of radio beacon that we did not cover last week and is not used that much anymore, mainly because it cannot tell you distance, unlike VORs. So
Yeah, it stands for a non-directional beacon.
yeah, and you can't. It just sends out one singular ping in all directions, so you can't do a whole lot with that information, unlike VORs, which send out a ping in each direction. Each 360 degrees, it sends 360 different pings, pretty much. Okay. We can actually go ahead and add it to our route, just because it's right there. And just like that, we'll have reached Renton Municipal. So this should be pretty straightforward. All we're doing is climbing up to the Seattle VOR. Then we'll make a left towards sort of the middle ground between Seattle and Renton over there. So we can see like this little, at least in my sim, it shows sort of a metropolitan area, but I don't think this will show up in X-Plane Mobile. We'll see. And then just continue flying northbound until we reach the body of water. Make our turn, come back, and land. Easy peasy. So, let's go ahead and get in the cockpit. Alright, I can actually quickly input these waypoints. So, perhaps if I were to go... So, this is sort of a... If you really want to learn how to use the GPS that sort of comes in your Cessna, this will sort of be a way to do it. You don't have to know how to use this, but I'm just going to program our waypoints in right now. So you can use the small cursor to go ahead and pick a waypoint. So the first one is the Seattle VOR, Seattle VOR, just like that. Then the next waypoint we picked, remember, is... What's that? Duan. Let's go to Duan. So let's go ahead and use the small cursor. Where's D? These ones take a little patience to use. Let's see, and LMN. There we go. It'll autofill sometimes. Accept. And finally, the last waypoint we picked was the Renton NDB, the old type of radio beacon, which you can see up here. Okay. So let's go OPQR and November T Tango ST. Oh, it doesn't show up for me. That's hilarious. I suppose I'm just gonna pick the waypoint instead. The waypoint behind it. I suppose that's probably old data. So let's take a look behind it. Let me get rid of this. I wonder if I can get rid of it. I'm gonna go to Toyol instead, which is back here. So let me Oil. Okay, how about Enedy? It doesn't show either of those waypoints back there. Whatever, you guys can add this to your route, and I will just sort of figure out my way. QRST. So go ahead and stick to the Renton NDB as you see there. I don't know if it'll show up for me though, this waypoint. Y. OP. HIJK. L. There you go. Good enough. Great. And finally, our destination airport is the Renton Municipal. So Kilo Romeo. Whoa. And RST. There we go. Now, we should be able to see. That's great. Okay. Now, if I were to push cursor, click menu, activate leg, and go. Okay. So the idea now is we want to be able to fly this route without actually looking at. Oh, I'm sorry, I had it blocked, huh? So this is the flight plan that I just pulled in, and once you're done typing stuff, you can just press the cursor, and then you're done. So this is our destination, Renton Municipal. So let's go ahead and take off. Let's go ahead and run through the checklist. Now, I don't think we'll be able to see the map, which is sad. But... something else you'll realize is that these maps and the GPS will actually show you the airspace restrictions. You'll see all the lines here. Now the last step is we want to pick an altitude. So let's go ahead and reference that VFR sectional we were looking at. Let's go ahead and take a look again. Now that we've chosen the route that we want to take, let's go ahead and figure out what altitude we should go up to. So this airspace restriction has surface to 10,000. It looks like we'll be in this restricted airspace the entire time. So we could go ahead and let's say if we're going to fly, I can go ahead and input the waypoints here. Seattle VOR, Duan, and the Renton NDB, which doesn't show up. So let me put the other one. There you go. Great. And notice what else you'll see is sort of a shipping area here. This is for boat traffic, I believe, and that makes sense. It's a body of water. So it looks like we're going to be inside this little airspace right here. Since this part of the airspace starts at 2,000, we're going to expect big jets perhaps flying in this region of airspace towards the Seattle airport between 2,000 feet and 10,000 feet. So let's go ahead and stay below that. Let's go ahead and climb up to 1,800 feet, let's say. There's actually some rules. I keep forgetting, is eastward odd altitudes or even altitudes? There's a rule for this. Odd, eastward is odd, right?
Odds plus 500 feet.
Odds plus 500.
Also, can you hear me well?
Yeah, we can hear you. It's a little bit choppy though.
It's quite choppy.
My Wi-Fi went out and I'm using my data right now.
Okay, no worries. So we can pick an altitude of 1,700, right, for cruise? 1,700 feet.
1,700? So, cool.
Okay, you're a little bit hard to hear. That's okay. We'll go ahead.
1,700 is 1,700, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, it's odds plus 500. So, like, 1,500.
Okay.
3,500.
Okay. Okay, so since we're going eastward, let's go ahead and go up to 1,500 feet. That's what we'll aim for. Now, we didn't tell you to start with your engines off. That's okay. So your plane might already have its engine on. If it's off right now, well, that's nice. You can run the startup procedure, which we've gone over way too many times at this point. So let's just go ahead and get ready for takeoff and start finding these landmarks. Okay, so we're ready for takeoff. All the lights are on, masters are on, avionics are on, mixtures are in. Remember to idle between 700 to 1000 RPM. And let's check that our trim, our takeoff trim, is set to the central position, like that. And we're ready to go. Okay, let's release the brakes, get out of here. All right, full thrust. Now, the plane will want to veer to the left. You might remember from a couple lessons ago, so you'll need a little bit of right rudder as we're taking off. And 60 knots, rotate. Or, not rotate, but just pull up. Alright, we're in the air. So, as we can see, if we were to look just straight at this map, we're almost about to reach the Seattle VOR. So let's go ahead and keep flying straight. Now I wish I could show this on the... There we go. Now we can see it. Now we can see the map. So, we're about to reach the Seattle VOR, which is a little hard to see. It's blocked by some other waypoints, but we're about to reach that. Coming close on it. Now, since we're in the air, let's go ahead and start adjusting our trims. Remember, let's adjust our trims so that the plane can climb normally at a set speed that we've set up right now. So we're at around, let's say, 90, 95 knots around. All right, now we're ready to make the left turn towards Duan. But note that we want to be able to fly this route without following the GPS too much. We want to be able to look outside for our visual references. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and find the middle area between Seattle Airport to our left and Renton Municipal, which should be somewhere over there. Wherever that body of water is, right there. That's the body of water we got to aim for. So let's go ahead and sort of fly around this middle area right here. Let's head eastward for a little bit. And let me reduce the sound of the simulator. It's a bit loud. There we go. Alright. So we got Seattle off to our left here. Now, we did say we were going to go up to 1,500. I overshot that. Oops. Now that we've reached cruise altitude, we can go ahead and pull the thrust back just a little bit. Adjust our trims. Let me get down to 1,500 because that's what we promised. Now, if you notice, if you look at the GPS, we're not quite on the route that we planned. Notice the magenta line tells us where we're supposed to be, and our plane is slightly off. That's okay, we're flying visual flight rules. It doesn't really matter as long as we're approximately going where we want to go. And Seattle is now very much off to our left here, and Renton is getting closer to us, so we see the body of water. Let's go ahead and start turning to the left here. And let's go ahead and keep adjusting our pitch trim so that we can maintain a cruise altitude. All right. Let's go ahead and start aiming for the lake back here. This is something you should be able to see in X-Plane Mobile as well. But remember, let's not fly directly to the lake because the runway, if you look carefully, the runway is pretty much right at the lake. And you don't want to go fly straight to this lake and then make a sharp turn. You're going to send your plane cartwheeling. That wouldn't be fun. I mean, unless that's what you like to do. But anyway. And if you notice in the GPS, we planned it so that we would head straight for that lake. But notice we're flying a little bit parallel to the runway, which, if you remember from our traffic pattern, is called the downwind. So we're sort of entering Renton's traffic pattern, sort of, on the downwind for runway 16. And to be more precise, the right downwind because we're on the right side of runway 16, which is over here. And remember from our traffic pattern video, we want to start our descent once we're parallel to the numbers. So let's go ahead and wait till we're parallel to the numbers on runway 16. Keep flying straight ahead, maintain a good speed, around 100. How fast are we going? Around 110 knots, close enough. Alright, just keep looking off to our right here. And the other thing we're starting to notice is the hill. So this hillside by the airport sort of acts as a natural barrier to the airport. So the airport's in a valley. This one you should also be able to see. Alright. Now we're coming up on the numbers, so let's go ahead and start the descent procedure. Let's go ahead and pull our thrust back to 2000 RPM, which you can see on the tachometer, and begin the descent. Pitch trim down accordingly if you need to get the descent going. Actually, is it 1500 RPM or 2000? I always forget this. For the descent.
1500.
Alright, let's go ahead and pull the thrust down to 1500. That would make a lot more sense. And you don't want to descend too fast, obviously. Because then, you know, you don't want to, like, fall either. So we're about to pass through 1000. Now, we've reached the lake area that we wanted to reach. So let's go ahead and start turning base. And start extending flap. Ooh, I extended flaps a little early. You want to wait till your speed gets down to the white region before extending flaps. So always be mindful. And notice we're not really following the GPS anymore because it's not really helping us get to the runway at this point. It was just a rough idea of where we wanted to be, you know, like that. So we're turning base. We're now perpendicular to the runway. Let's go ahead and set the runway heading on the heading bug here, like this. So let me change it to 160, and I think I'm about to... We're a little high. Let's go ahead and keep descending. And I'm going to start turning final. And that should be good. Let's go ahead and kick out another notch of flaps and keep slowing down to around 70-ish knots, 60 to 70 knots. And we're coming up on final for the runway. Now, remember the poppy lights? We've discussed this a couple lessons ago. This tells us our glide path, how well we're doing. And now that we've aligned ourselves on final, let's go ahead and kick out the final notch of flaps. And if you look at our poppy lights, we're doing perfectly so far. 2 reds, 2 whites. We're going great. So let's go ahead and make this touchdown. Almost there. Calvin, did your iPad ever come back alive?
It is, but I think it's still at 1%.
Oh,
the whole
wow,
entire
okay.
time. So
Okay.
every single time I start using it, it'll just die.
Okay. No worries. Alright, now it's just smooth sailing. Don't worry about whatever thrust restrictions you need. Just control your thrust so that you stay at around 60 knots. Control your trim so that you maintain a constant descent. And let's aim for this touchdown zone. Let's go ahead and begin the nose up to get the plane on the ground smoothly. There we go. And just like that, we've landed. Now let's go ahead and pull back on the yoke a little bit to increase drag from these elevators back here and slow us down, which is also called aerodynamic braking. And we're ready to vacate off the runway. Although I don't think... this should be fine, whatever. Let's go ahead and vacate over here, because I don't want to taxi all the way over there. You normally don't want to vacate when the taxiway is heading backwards like this, but that's okay. And something you would tell air traffic control sometimes is you're vacating off Bravo 5. Vacating runway 16 off Bravo 5, and we're about to enter taxiway Bravo. Now at this point, once you're off the runway, once you've passed the hold short line, I went a little too far, but once you pass the hold short line, this is when you're ready to talk to ground control at air traffic control and ask for taxi instructions to whatever parking you wanted to go to. Now, unfortunately, we don't have any air traffic control online right now, so our taxi instructions will be self-given. And so say they might say, Skyhawk 2 Sierra Papa, taxi via Bravo to parking. I can't think of a name of what flight school might be there that owns this plane that we're flying right now. So they might just say taxi via Bravo, parking. And then we'll respond saying taxi via Bravo to parking, Skyhawk 2 Sierra Papa. And we just continue going like that. Now, as you notice, this is the first time I'm bringing up air traffic control in the entire lesson. That was because we didn't have any online air traffic controllers through the VATSIM network that we were using a couple lessons ago. So that's unfortunate. But also, congratulations, you now know how to fly a point A to point B flight using basically landmarks, basically visual references on the ground, with a little bit of aid from your GPS here. Which, you didn't have to use this, by the way. If you've planned your flight in X-Plane Mobile, it shows the waypoints already for you, so you wouldn't have had to enter them. Now, this looks like a nice place to park, so let's go ahead and park here. And start the shutdown procedure. Let's go ahead and park back here. I don't see any, like, legit parking, so I'm just gonna do whatever. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just gonna stop here. Like, this. Alright. Want to get our flaps up, want to make sure our landing lights are off because we're not really taking off, not taxiing anymore either, so let's get those off. Can turn the nav lights off as well, strobe lights since we're not taking off or anything. And ready to pull the mixture out. And just like that, engines are off. Set the magnetos to off, and you can turn off whatever. Okay, great. Open the door and get out the plane. And this is where you do your final checks to make sure the plane's in one piece. But I'm not going to go over that right now. So thank you guys so much for joining us on this lesson on flight planning. Flying from point A to point B, using fixes, using VORs, using visual references, the whole jazz. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat. We'll go ahead and start to address those now. Are there any questions in the chat so far we can address?
Doesn't seem like.
Okay. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to touch down on the subscribe and like buttons. I haven't shown this animation in forever. I don't know why, but please feel free to touch down on the subscribe and like buttons. We really appreciate the support to spread the aviation education across the world through this YouTube thingamajig. And yeah, what are some of the things we could address? This is pretty much all we had planned. So if you have any other questions, don't be afraid to reach out to us via email at flyprojectaviate@gmail.com or through the anonymous form, which is also in the spreadsheet, our master spreadsheet. Remember our master spreadsheet? This thing? Let me show you. Remember this? Yeah. Got our questions here too. Fill out the simple form if you have questions during the stream. It's just your question. That's it. So we'll be checking these regularly. Alright, aviators, if there are no questions, thank you so much for joining us on this stream. Congratulations, this marks the end of the entire VFR lesson series. We've learned everything. You now know how to fly a Cessna 172 from startup to shutdown. You know how to communicate with other pilots and air traffic controllers so that you have situational awareness, which means you understand what's going on in the sky around you, you understand the situation of the other airplanes around you and the other airports around you, you understand how to plan a flight using visual references, GPS coordinates, and radio beacons from the ground, and you also understand the physics of how your airplane is able to generate lift, maneuver in the sky, how it's able to generate thrust, propel itself forward. That was like back to the beginning of our lesson series. You know so much. In the last 14 lessons that we've had, 12 lessons that we've had, you've learned a lot, and we're all very proud of you for joining us on this journey, on this flight, about learning how to fly, learning about aviation, and the physics, engineering, beginnings, what goes on here. So,
Congrats, you're sim pilots now.
yeah, you're sim pilots now. Next steps is what we're going to be going over in our next lesson. Now that you've learned all the stuff, that's it. No more learning, I guess, to do, except going to flight school, of course, which we'll talk about all future opportunities, where to go from here in our next lesson, which I think should be our final actual lesson, unless we do another chill stream. But yeah, any other words, officers?
Nope, all good. Look forward to graduating class of 2021 at Project Aviate.
Yeah, you guys are the Project Aviate class of 2021. How'd that feel?
Anish is asking if you can check the ZUTC airport.
The who? The what?
Zulu Uniform Delta Charlie Airport. I don't know where that is.
ZUDC.
That sounds like a Chinese airport because it's Z. Oh no, that's V. JK.
I think this might be Swiss. I'm guessing it's Swiss. Oh no, it is Daocheng Yading. Sorry. I
Sorry for
pronounced
the
that wrong.
pronouncing. I know.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with this airport, man. It looks interesting.
I think it's one of those which is. Oh, this is the one with the highest elevation, isn't it? It's in China.
Ah, okay. That'd be fun. We didn't talk about how to fly in high elevations. That's actually a whole other ball game that you'll learn in flight school. It has to do with changing your mixture so that the RPM is at its optimal amount.
Matching the fuel going into the engine with the air that's going into the engine, which is a lot thinner up there.
Yeah,
That's
that's
one more lesson stream, right? And then,
yeah.
Unless we have some chill streams. Yeah.
Yes, the next stream will just be where to go from here. So no more actual content. All right, with that, aviators, thank you once again. Congrats once again. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you in the next lesson. Take care. Don't forget to look up. I stole that from some YouTuber. Whatever.
Take care. It's a hot one out there today.
That's
Yeah.
true.
I have a good one, guys. And
Have fun.
drink water because heat.